because we owe it to them after their service to the country to make sure that they get the best possible health care available on the planet. We have people with very complex conditions that we have to worry about: TBI, PTSD, physical wounds. So we need to make sure that they can go into an environment where they know they're going to get the best care. And we need to have safety valves when we can't provide that care in a VA setting, which is critically important, that they have other options and other choices. I think that the problem has more to do with the bureaucracy and less to do with the healthcare providers in the VA, in the healthcare centers and the VA hospitals. That's not to say that aren't bad actors out there and that we should find them and fire them. But what we really need to do is recognize that this bureaucracy in some cases exists for its own sake, not for the sake of providing quality health care to the veteran. That's the part of the bureaucracy that needs to move on so that we can redouble our efforts and our funding on providing quality health care. I think they need to get out and visit the VA. They need to understand, I think, that there's a role to play for a brick and mortar presence for the VA, a place where veterans can congregate. Many of them get a therapeutic value by just simply being around other soldiers. So I've come to believe that that is a part of completing the puzzle. It doesn't mean that you won't have non-VA care. 30 or 40% of all the care given to veterans now are given by private providers, and that there's not a role for choice, but I think it's finding a way to strike the balance, and that may vary from state to state. I think it's one of the least partisan committees. You know, I have Judiciary, which is at one end of the spectrum. We have the VA. Most of the members want to come together to help the VA, so that you find fewer instances where we really do divide along partisan lines. It may be differences in how we want to solve the problem, but it's good to see Democrats and Republicans come together for the good of the veterans. Well, last year when they started what they refer to as a transformation program, I expressed a personal interest because these are the kinds of things that I did when I worked in the private sector. And in this very office, over the past year, we've met almost monthly with Secretary McDonald and his staff to talk about this roadmap and how they're doing, how they're progressing. They've made some progress. Quite honestly, I think this administration has hampered some of the progress that they want to make because they have competing interests that deal more with the administration, less to do with the MyVA transformation. But on the whole, I think that they've made good progress. I hope as we move into the next administration, we can build on it, not necessarily start from scratch. Accelerate the things that are working well, find other solutions to the things where they haven't made progress, and I'd like to be a part of that again. I think so. I think particularly as it relates to authority, I believe that the Secretary, if he had his way, would have cleaned a lot more house in terms of non-performing, low-performing positions in the VA. But he doesn't really have that option. He's received a fair amount of criticism for not firing people, but the reality is, even with the changes that have been made, it's very difficult for the chief executive. If they were listed on Fortune, it'd be the 6th largest business in the Fortune 100. But he does not have the authority that a CEO has to go through and actually execute. I think in this next administration, we may have a secretary who is empowered to do that, and I'm optimistic about our ability to move forward quickly.